noticed that the women in Zimbabwe are very strong. And they make a great contribution to society, and there I quote you, "When women, she believed she could, so she did." But I belong to an age where we watched Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers on television, and we said that they used to do the same dancing. The only thing was that Ginger Rogers had to do it backwards and in high heels. So there are many things that have been brought up in the discussions, and if we start with the sort of the foundation of a country, education. I'm very happy that that was brought up, quality education, as a prerequisite for actually having the kind of start that makes it possible to have more women in leadership positions. I think the mentoring issue that was partly mentioned is extremely important, that women support other women, but obviously also the fact that we have, as was pointed out by the Albanian ambassador, that we have men and women working together, extremely important. It's also the private sector is very unique because the kind of networks you have can really bring change. So, and I see that not only in Zimbabwe, but in very many countries when the private sector goes together and also sometimes decide to support. It could be financial support to a specific project, which is extremely helpful. So obviously more women in leadership positions, not only a question for Zimbabwe, but in my own country, it's something that we discuss. We're seeing progress in politics. In the political sphere, it seems to be easier. Maybe it's because of the political system we have. But in the business sector, it's quite often difficult. But when we do have women in the key positions, for example, on company boards, the impression that when we speak to men, they say that they like having women on company boards because the women very often read documents and do the analysis, although they might not be saying very much at board meetings, but they're still very engaged, and when they're asked, they can come up with some very good ideas and things that are very important for company successes. So there are many other things that were brought up that were interesting, and I think the banking system, digitalization, and so on. But finally, I just want to say that the collaboration that you have with UN Women is, of course, for us, something that we take back to New York, which is something that we realize that will not only continue, but will be strengthened, and once again, as a private sector. And I think now the way the world looks, you will see definitely in New York, the talk about the private sector. I think a few years ago there was more hesitancy, but now it's becoming critical. And I hope that you, as sort of key people in the private sector here, also visit New York, and so that you also get the flavor of, or just to see the challenges also not only in your own country, but other countries face. I've seen that once again in my own country when I speak to key people in business sector. One of the absolute leading person in our business, a very well-known man, and I asked him, have you ever been to United Nations in New York? And he looked at me and he said, no, but I do wish I could go there one day. And I said, I'll invite you. Yes. So thank you so much for your contributions, very appreciated.